I'm going to go over the key elements of a research project or thesis. The first element is finding a research problem that you're interested in and developing research questions. The basic idea is to search the research and/or talk to your supervisor to come up with interesting and motivating research problems that you're motivated to answer. And then you're going to focus on specific questions or a question that will help address the problem. The question should be reasonable and answerable. And when I say answerable, you can collect evidence for it and write it up in about a 6 to 12 month period. After that, you can write the second part, which is the introduction. In the introduction, you will write what the problem is. You'll describe what the problem is. You'll discuss why the problem is important and justify that, and then address what question or questions in general you will answer to address the problem. Now you're ready to write the literature review. The literature review involves finding out what the current literature says about your problem and research question, and you'll report on key findings and organize them under particular categories, and then identify what is missing. And what is missing will hopefully be addressed by your particular question or approach to investigating the problem. At the end of the literature review, you will clearly list your research questions. Next, you're going to write up the method section. And in this section, you have to decide who you're going to collect data from, how you're collecting the data, whether it's surveys or interviews or observation tools, and describe the data collection tools in detail. And then you'll finally answer how you will analyze your data. Once you've really clarified the method and who and how you're going to collect the data, you need to actually collect the data. So you will have to develop, if you haven't developed already, surveys or interview questions or open-ended questions. You have to decide that, or maybe it's a combination of both, and you will have to carefully collect the data from your subjects. You also need to decide the format of data that you want to collect, whether it'll be numbers if you're collecting quantitative information, or whether it'll be notes that you take, or whether you'll actually record interviews and transcribe them. So you have to decide what you're going to do in that process and then set up a systematic list of how you're actually going to collect the data and then do it. After you've collected your data, you need to analyze it. In order to analyze your data, you need, if it's statistical data or quantitative data, you need a statistics package for analysis. You need to figure out a coding method for analyzing qualitative data if you've collected that. And then after you've done your analysis, because there can be a number of analyses that you do, you have to select the data that you want to present. After you've selected the data that you want to present, you are now ready to write the results section. Now, when you write the results section, one way of doing it, one way that I use fairly often, is to organize the results by the research question or research questions that you were going to address, stated in your literature review, and then by the type of data collected. So you're basically listing the evidence and presenting it to answer your research question. You have to focus on creating clear tables and figures if you use those. The figures are graphical representations of information. And you really have to remember to present the facts. You're not interpreting the facts at this point. You're just presenting the facts. The interpretation and discussion occurs in the discussion section. After you've written up the results, you are ready to write the discussion. Now, the discussion is also organized by research questions, and what you're doing, at least at first, is comparing your results to previous research. So consult your literature review and make sure that you bring that literature review into your discussion and compare what you found to what was previously known. and then you can also present new results as well. In the discussion too, you'll have separate sections for listing the limitations of your study, the educational implications of your results, possibilities for future research, and a conclusion. Once you've finished your discussion, you're ready to finish the reference section. Hopefully you've been keeping track of your references all along. In the reference section, you include references only. The only references you include are the ones that you were directly referred to in the paper. Make sure you use APA format, and for articles, the new 6th edition requires that you include a DOI number, which should be listed in most recent articles or well-developed journals, established journals, I guess is what I mean. And the DOI number is basically a number that you can use. If you type DOI in Google, you can use the search engine to find the article directly, so it helps people find the articles. Once you finish the reference section, you're ready to write the abstract. Now the abstract is basically a half a page or page write-up of your whole project. So it's provided at the beginning of your paper actually, even though you write it last, and involves an introduction to why you're doing the research, what the research question is, description of your sample, presentation of your results, and the key findings only, and the implications of the results. You're basically attributing 1 sentence or giving 1 sentence to each of these, perhaps 2 sentences to the results section. So those are the key elements of writing a research project and thesis.